Anne Bradstreet. In the 17th century, the accepted social and religious belief throughout the world was that women were inferior to men Puritan. Men or religious leaders deeply mistrusted women, considering them daughters of Eve, and therefore ready for both power and sexual gratification. According to the reading titled Background, The New Land 1800, there were three geographical groups regarding national identity in America: New England, the southern colonies, and the middle colonies. To the New England colonies came the Puritans. The first to settle were the Pilgrims, who wished to separate from the Church of England. The Puritans adhered to a strict code of morality and proper behavior. On the other hand, the Salem witchcraft trials began in 1692. It was about two young girls who were accused of being bewitched. William Phips, who was the colony's royal governor, created a new court to hear the witchcraft cases, and over 100 people were accused of being witches or wizards, and 20 of them were executed and 4 more died in prison. 16 were women. Then, in an odd twist of fate, the harshness of colonial life opened a door for women if a male settler died, which happened frequently. Women were allowed to manage the husband's properties and provide for their children's welfare out of necessity. They demonstrated that women could be independent and survive most of these unheralded. Female heroes of America's early colonies remain unknown. Nevertheless, women who took advantage of this newfound independence emerging in Massachusetts Bay Colony were Anne Hutchinson and Anne Bradstreet. In the case of Anne Hutchinson, she was born in England in 1591. She got married at the age of 22. In 1634, she and her husband immigrated to New England, and she was a brilliant thinker. She denied that conformity with the religious laws was a sign of godliness and insisted that true holiness came from an inner experience of Holy Spirit. But her own Puritan church leaders thought her ideas were radical. In 1637, Hutchinson and her followers went south into Rhode Island, which later became a center for religious tolerance in the colonies. And Hutchinson's courage helped open the doors for later women to embrace an American independent spirit. One of these women was Anne Bradstreet. Bradstreet was born in England as well. She was a well-read and educated person. Both Anne Bradstreet and her husband immigrated to Massachusetts Bay Colony in 1630. While poetry wasn't a standard vehicle for Puritan expression, it finds a genuinely moving voice in the innovative poems of Anne Bradstreet. She began writing poetry that reflected the change in colonial women as they began to embrace their destiny to become new independent American women. This change was expressed in her poem on Queen Elizabeth, and in verse, "The 10th muse lately sprang up in America." Anne Bradstreet died in 1672 in Andover, Massachusetts. One of her poems is one of the stanzas of the prologue really captures that she wanted to convey. I am obnoxious to each carping tongue, who says my hand a needle better fits. A poet's pen I'll scorn I should thus run. For such despite they cast on female wits. If what I do prove well, it won't advance, they'll say it's stolen, or else it was by chance. At the time, many men said how a woman could have done this, and several men in her community wrote testimonial that a man wrote such a poem. Bradstreet was to prove that she was the author. The first edition of her poems was published in 1650. In 1678, 6 years after her death, the second edition of her poems came out with a substantially new material. Much of it, her best work, personal poetry of her experience as a mother, as a woman in the colonies, as a woman who faced a frontier environment and settled herself in it. Bradstreet gave voice to a woman's experience from the very beginning of the white women's settlement in North America. She was a female poet in a society that considered this practice by a female unusual.